Investigators now know that none of the pilots on either plane followed the controller's instructions. To find out why, investigators have to dig deeper. It may boil down to the behavior of the two crews. Transcripts of the control tower tapes reveal a growing level of tension in the KLM cockpit.
The captain did express or exhibit a definite hurry-up tendency.
The KLM Jumbo has been waiting at Tenerife for almost 3.5 hours. Investigators later find out from radio conversations that Captain Van Zanten had expressed concern about going over the number of hours he's allowed to work. He still has to pick up 300 passengers in Gran Canaria to take back to Amsterdam. If he's late, the crew will be grounded for a rest period, and KLM will have to pay overnight accommodation for everyone on board. And now the fog is rolling in, causing very low visibility. He's feeling the pressure.
I think every captain thinks that all the problems are on the ground, and as soon as you take off, problems are over. There you are in your kingdom, and you are the person who decides. In the mind of this captain, I think that happened exactly the same.
The American Airline Pilots Association also looked into the psychological factors of the case. Star pilot Captain Van Zanten was KLM's senior instructor, and in the last 6 years had spent most of his time training other pilots.
If an individual spends too much time in the training center and not enough time out on the line, then he becomes more used to the training environment.
In fact, in the past 6 years, Captain Van Zanten had flown an average of just 21 hours per month, and he'd not flown at all in the last 12 weeks. Bill Edmonds suggests that a phenomenon called training syndrome causes pilots to blur the distinction between the real world and the unreal world.
With a simulator, you go ahead and you fly a maneuver, you stop, you reset the simulator, you refly the maneuver. You kind of get used to jumping around, and you're ready to do something, and you go ahead and do that.
In the simulator, the instructor acts as the controller. He usually issues ATC clearance and takeoff clearance to the crew. He wouldn't have to wait for clearance from a control tower.
Captain Van Zanten was ready to perform his takeoff. At a certain point, all the parameters were satisfied for his takeoff, and he was ready to go. Not sure that he looked at the big picture of where they were on the runway, where other air traffic might have been, but he was ready to go.
The effect of training syndrome on Van Zanten can never be proved. But another mystery remains. 18 seconds before the crash, Captain Van Zanten thrusts his engines into full power. 2 other crew members are sharing the controls. Why didn't they stop him? Control tower tapes have revealed that KLM's Captain Van Zanten took off without clearance. Investigators have also discovered that the Pan Am Jumbo missed its exit and was in the way. Now investigators are waiting for the evidence from the plane's damaged black boxes. They could reveal new clues. Each 747 has 2 black boxes, the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder, which stores the final 30 minutes of all conversations inside the cockpit. Spanish investigator Jaime Velarde took the black boxes to Washington, where they were examined in the National Transportation Safety Board's special laboratory.
It was very, very heavy investigation because you had to analyze practically every one of the recorded voices.
So far, investigators have relied upon tapes from the control tower. But 2 weeks into the investigation, they can finally examine the tapes from the black boxes.
It can take several days to listen to a half-hour cockpit voice recorder. And you try to identify who's speaking, what they're saying, and what other interactions may be going on.
Only when investigators compare the black box tapes from the two planes with the recordings from the control tower do they get the full story. They make a dramatic discovery. In the KLM cockpit, the crew didn't hear certain directions that were clearly audible on the control tower tapes. Just when Captain Van Zanten most needed his radio communications, a loud squeal obliterated vital messages.
Papa from 1736 report.
Patrick Smith is a commercial pilot who studied many air disasters.
Communicating to air traffic control the way we do is just so second nature. You don't think of it potentially being something that could break down and kill you. Here, a very simple technological problem lent a hand to this massive accident.
The communication system in use at Los Rodeos in 1977 is still used all around the world today. Airplanes communicate with air traffic control using two-way VHF radios. All the planes at the airport tune into the same frequency, so that not only can they receive their instructions, they can also hear what's going on around them. But the system has limitations.
It's not the same as speaking over the telephone where two people can talk at a time. The best way to picture it is if anybody's ever used a walkie-talkie, you click and you speak.
Only one person can speak on that frequency at a time. Everyone must wait their turn. A problem occurs when two or more people try to use the frequency at the same time. It causes a loud, noisy squeal, known as a heterodyne.
Hearing a heterodyne on an open frequency is 999 times out of 1,000. It's an innocuous phenomenon.
But the accident at Tenerife was that 1 in 1,000, where the heterodyne was not harmless. 67 seconds before impact. Captain Van Zanten has completed his difficult 180-degree turn at the end of the runway. The flight data recorder reveals that he opens the throttle. The cockpit voice recorder reveals that the co-pilot is alarmed.
Wait a minute, we don't have an ATC clearance.
Captain Van Zanten's reply is curt.
No, I know that, but go ahead, ask.
44 seconds before impact. While the KLM co-pilot is reading back the ATC clearance to the controller, the data recorder reveals that Van Zanten has already begun to accelerate. He doesn't wait for the co-pilot to finish. 37 seconds.
We're going.
But the Pan Am Jumbo is still taxiing on the runway. From the tower tapes, investigators know the controller told the KLM plane to wait for takeoff clearance.
Okay, stand by for takeoff. I will call you.
At that exact moment, the Pan Am cockpit tapes reveal that the Pan Am crew also respond.
We're still taxiing down the runway, the Clipper 1736.
They're both responding at the same time. But the KLM cockpit tape reveals that because both Pan Am and the controller speak at the same time, it creates a heterodyne.
Okay.
Captain Van Zanten simply hears the word, okay. He doesn't hear the controller.
Okay, stand by for takeoff. I will call you.
Nor does he hear the Pan Am.
We're still taxiing down the runway, the Clipper 1736.
He continues accelerating down the runway.
Either one of those statements should have stopped him in his tracks, but because those two transmissions were made simultaneously, all he heard was a garbled noise.
Just 28 seconds later, the KLM Jumbo smashes into the Pan Am.